Welcome to the Inglorious Blasters podcast, the Star Wars Legion podcast talking anything and everything glorious or inglorious about the game. My name is Corey, and with me today are two Gorg faces I call friends, John and Brendan. How's it going, my dudes?
It's going great. Just happy to be back recording with you two fine gentlemen.
Welcome back, just John.
Yeah, just John. I doubt I'm a Gorg face, but...
That's right. It's very similar to Dork face, for, you know, the relevant 2024 insults.
Do people still get called a dork face in
many years.
2024? I thought that was more of a 90s thing.
Yeah, definitely. So welcome to the show, everyone. We got a fun one for everyone today. Glorious versus Inglorious segment. It's back. We're going to debate TaunTauns. Are they glorious or inglorious? Also, we got a brand new segment coming at you. How to take your gameplay from inglorious to glorious. We just like hearing the name of our podcast, so that's why we keep saying it out loud.
Is that why?
Sneak it in there as many times as possible.
That's right. We're going to keep using it. Get used to it.
Yeah.
So, before we begin, we want to highlight a upcoming tournament. Brendan, I think Brendan has the info for this.
I do.
St. Lawrence Open.
Yes, the St. Laurent Open 2024. Eric reached out to us. He is running the event this year, and it is in Montreal, Canada, from October 19th to 20th. They can host a max of 64 participants. So if you want to play Legion in Canada, definitely go. And you want to find out more, there is a channel in the main Legion Discord, as well as a website, which is the stlaurentopen.com. So find out more. If you can go, awesome.
Nice. Yeah, this is their second year running, is that correct?
Second year.
Second year, yeah. I believe it was very successful last time. So, and Eric's a listener of the show. Cool dude. Hopefully we can hang out again soon.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, that'd be great. Awesome. With that, let's just get into the meat of the episode. So, today, Glorious versus Inglorious. So, this segment, for those of you that don't know, is our debate. So, we're going to have one person be the judge. Hopefully, they are unbiased in their opinion. And then we're going to have two other players. They're going to be on two different sides. They're going to be for this unit is glorious, meaning they're great, or they're inglorious, meaning they're bad and they're trash and no one should ever play them. That's going to be me this time. I'm going to have the side of inglorious. John's going to have the side of glorious. And then Brendan's going to be the judge.
Completely impartial judge.
Oh, yes. Completely.
Yeah, no.
I doubt that because he loves the Empire.
That's true.
And he hates the rebels, so...
I mean...
Hopefully it's an easy dub for me.
I mean, there are three things that I know about TaunTauns before reading their card off.
What's that?
They smell bad. They smell bad, even worse on the inside, and their inside is lukewarm.
I was going to say that joke, but you ripped it from my hands. So,
You're welcome.
Erasing that from my notes. Thanks, Brendan.
I figured I'd steal both of your thunder. So
it was just a race to see who gets to it first.
As judge, I have the rights. Also, since I read the card first.
That's right. Brendan, can you do us the honors and read us the card?
All right. So TaunTaun Riders are a support for the Rebel Alliance. They are 90 points. There are 2 minis in the squad, and they are creature troopers with 4 health per model and a courage of 2. With white defense dice, they surge to hit and surge to defense. They are speed 3. They have a ranged 1-2 attack with their DL-44 blaster pistol. That's 2 red. They also have a melee attack, which is horns and hindclaws, for 2 black and a white, which is ram 1. They have agile 1, so they get a dodge when they move, a standard move. They have relentless, so they get to perform a free attack after a move. Reposition, sharpshooter 1, and unhindered. They can also take a training upgrade and a comms upgrade.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Brendan, who do you want to hear from first? Inglorious or glorious?
Let's go with inglorious.
Oh, darn. Well, let me tell you why. these guys have previously been a meta menace, I'll call them. But I feel like those days are long behind us. So they come in at 90 points, and that's before upgrades. And I feel like they fill a similar role to what speeder bikes do, or swoops, but at a much cheaper point cost. And those speeder bikes usually bring at least the Imperial one brings impact. The swoop bike brings a pistol at range 2, and then also brings overrun. And it's very possible to basically get 3 attacks in one activation, which is pretty sweet. And also, like, the swoops can hit in melee. So what I'm getting at is that Tauns are good at what they do, which is like go tie up a unit in melee. But I feel like other units do what they want to do better. I feel like TaunTauns are mainly objective pieces as well. So if you want to play bombing run or breakthrough, they're pretty good at it. I just feel like white saves, even with like 2 dodges at the end of it, are just gonna die. You can kite them at least the beginning round, that's for sure. Dice pools have gotten pretty big. If you if they just look at a dark trooper, they will just die. They'll just blow up. I've had good success just killing them as EXD. Like my BX commandos just kind of like delete them. It usually takes probably 2 shots. And even if they tie up my my commandos in melee, I have a super tac 2-pip to get them out, to bail them out. That has a disengage, so then like I'll just hop out and just shoot. So I think like I'll say it again, they were a meta menace before, but it's not as glorious as it once was. And then if you want to actually have them do something like else, you're going to have to add additional training upgrade. So tenacity I don't think is the one you add. I believe you want to add endurance, because having 2 actions is definitely key on these guys. They only get to move twice in comparison to speeder bikes. So having that, insurance that they can remove an additional suppression is pretty key in my opinion. Yeah, I could probably ramble on a little bit more. I don't think they're as good as that they once were. They can't. Yeah. One more thing, they can't attack anything that's that's above them in height. So if like let's say Geonosians aren't on top of a building, they can't get to them. They could shoot them, but they can't do the thing which they want to do, which is ram them. Well, there you go. Okay, I'll leave it at that. John or Brendan, over to you.
Well, we'll go to John, because
John,
I haven't heard his arguments to state anything yet.
Well, thank you for giving me the time to speak, Brendan. I appreciate that. And Corey, I want to thank you for all of your negative statements. They bounced off me, similar to I am rubber, you are glue. Whatever you say bounces off me and sticks to you.
Okay, good.
So I was unaffected by them.
Childhood insults, got it.
Exactly. So I would like to point out, before I get into my arguments, that they do cost a little bit more than the speeder bike options that you had mentioned, but they do have 4 wounds as opposed to 3, and if you do price per wound, they are actually cheaper by a point or 2, depending on whether you're looking at stats or speeder bikes on a point per wound basis.
What about a swoop bike?
Swoop bike, they are 1 point per wound more, but they're all relatively within 1 to 2 points of each other. So the fact that they have the extra wound per model kind of keeps them priced equivalent. But they also have all the dodge tech of the Agile 1, and then you can obviously use the Cohesion, which they all can do, to keep them in heavy cover. So if you get the double move and then get the Cohesion, you've essentially got 2 dodges and heavy cover, so you're wiping away 4 hits before anything's bleeding over into your saves, so to speak. So that is kind of getting into one of my argument points. But just to point out, I don't know if they are as fragile as I feel like speeder bikes can be. So just one rebuttal there.
All right, I will take it.
All right, so TaunTaun's glorious. And I say that because I was told I had to be glorious. Speed 3.
Hold on. You you said, I don't care, I'll pick either side.
I did.
Just like you do every time. And I'm like, sure, I guess I'll pick. Just like you do every time, John. Sure, I'll take a loss, I don't care.
Moving on. TaunTauns, they're glorious. My favorite unit. I play them all the time. You can see me at any local game store putting these bad boys on the table, and here's why. Speed 3, they're super fast. They got that large base, or at least larger than a trooper. On a double move, they're just shy of range 3, so just under 18 inches, which makes them both great for attacking, objectives, running away if needed. If they get down to 1 or 2 wounds remaining, they can actually get out of dodge, so to speak, and get around buildings and things to hide themselves. While doing so, during those moves, the Agile 1, which I had already mentioned, allows for a dodge token after each move that they make. So when you're diving them in and doing a double move, you're going to end up with 2 dodges, and then you can use cohesion to your advantage to keep them in heavy cover, because you only have to get 1 model in heavy cover. Knowing, of course, that you're not going to get cover benefits from barricades or suppression because they are creature troopers, but tables are usually generous enough that you can get one of them behind something that's going to grant the unit heavy cover. So I find that when I have played against them in the past, a lot of times when you do have the ability to shoot them, unless you get the jump on them, which is harder to do because they are so fast, you're shooting into heavy cover with 2 dodges, which is kind of a pain in the butt. However, you did make a good point that dice pools are getting larger, so getting through those first 4, wiping the 2 initial dodges, and then the heavy cover is easier to do these days than it used to be. 8 wounds total, which gives them an advantage over some of the speeder bikes and other alternatively fast objective-based units. From an offensive output standpoint, in melee, they've got just under a range 3 threat range on a double move. When they get in there, they're going to roll 2 black, 1 white, and with surge to hit and that ram 1, you're pretty much going to push through 5 to 6 hits, because on ram you can convert any of the blanks to hits, and then you're probably going to get 4 to 5 hits naturally, primarily on those black dice, and then you can convert the 2 whites. And then you're always going to be able to attack off of a relentless, which is probably one of the best keywords in the game. The pistols are not terrible, but useful. They make your threat range, if needed, just under range 5 off of a double speed 3 move, and then the range 2 from the pistol shot. And with sharpshooter 1, 4 red surging hit, you're going to roll 3.5 hits on average, so if you're shooting into heavy cover with the sharpshooter 1, you're going to push through 2.5. So your opponent's going to roll 2 or 3 saves, which is decent, especially if you're running these things in packs of 3 and you can threat saturate, potentially pushing through 6 to 9 hits if all 3 are landing on the same target. Which I think you run these things in sets of 3 for obviously maximum threat saturation. And I think they work great in objective skews and aggro list. So, for those reasons, I say glorious.
All right, very nice.
Real quick, I'm going to say that John was wrong on one of his points. Ram doesn't convert to hits; it converts to crits.
Crits, sorry.
So.
Even better.
Even better. Wait a second.
Even better.
Not sorry.
And also the fact is there's 2 TaunTaun still alive. That becomes Ram 2 because it does stack.
Correct.
So you can convert
well, that's why I was saying you
them
can convert your whites to hits.
Yeah.
But basically,
2 blanks to 2 crits is real nice. So
yes. Yep. So you're probably going to get maybe 3 crits in there. 1 natty crit, and then converting 2 over to crits. So you could even hit vehicles, and if you have 3 of these things run into vehicles, you could actually do some damage to a vehicle unit, especially if it's a white save vehicle unit.
Yep.
I'm okay with them hitting a vehicle because then that means they're not engaged in melee, and that means I can shoot them. So, by all means, go for it.
It's also
That's
true.
your game plan.
That is also true.
If that's your game plan, I'm okay with that.
What you should do is run into Dark Troopers.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
A couple things I want to call out that neither of you did, just for the listeners to get a little bit more of where I'm coming from when I eventually make my decision. Agile 1 on the Tauntauns is great. What isn't great is situational awareness costs 8 points for them if they want to use it.
I don't think that's an upgrade on them anymore.
Agreed.
No, but it is an upgrade they could take if you wanted to make better use of their dodges. But
that's a rough
it's
ask,
double
but yeah.
the points because they were the meta menace. And the rules changed for that just to double for support.
Yep. I think,
So-
and they were the main reason behind that change, right?
Yes, they were the reason behind
because
that change.
they were a pain in the butt.
Another thing about them for John's side is the fact that they are creature troopers, and since they're creature troopers, they can withdraw and still get relentless attacks off. So you can't withdraw into another melee, but they could withdraw and fire their pistols off. So they're pretty versatile like that. It's something not a lot of people are aware of because you don't see creature troopers very often. It's just Tauntauns and Dewbacks. And at this point in the game, you're more likely to see Tauntauns than Dewbacks, which is very, very sad because Dewbacks are fun. But I digress.
Oh, you just reminded me. They also don't grant cover like
They
any,
don't. No.
like a Droideka or
No.
like any other bigger based vehicle.
Yeah, they are.
Or ATRT. Yeah.
No,
Yep.
no, they're just a thing on a taller thing on the board that's easier to shoot. And also in Echo-based defenders, you can take 4 of them. So you can go crazy. You can go crazy and have 4.
That is something you can do, just like you can play lats.
Oh, I think I'm winning because of that insult to the judge.
That's not how you try and win.
I
John.
take it.
All
I
right.
played lats. I played 2 of them.
This is not how you pander to the judge.
The lad giveth and the lad taketh.
So, any final comments from either of you?
I think I don't think not really. I think the only other thing I could think of is that just kind of like any other speeder bike, their effectiveness goes way down when you kill one model. So as Tauntauns are approaching me and I kill at least one model from that unit, I'm like, okay. Like I could breathe more easily. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I don't really care. Like I still care, but not as much. So I just wanted to throw that out there. They suffer the same fate as like speeder bikes in that way.
Yeah, I think
just more
I think
expensive.
you have to take them in 3s. Like if you're, maybe an argument could be for 2. I think 1 is a never take 1.
No, unless you have a very, 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 very specific plan.
Yep.
Or you're taking 2 swoops, which, you need to take, what is that? Underworld Connections in order to do in Rebels.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, we'll get into that. But yeah, I think you take a 3 of kind of knowing you're going to probably lose something on the way in. And I kind of like the triple Taun op Luke, where it's just either I'm going to run you over or die on the way in.
Right. Stabcast Ryan does this all the time, where he describes his game plan as, quick, look at these Tauntauns. Don't look at the rest of my army. We're shooting like critical 12 or whatever it is. I forget what it is. That's the Echo-based defenders list, where he's got like 3 Tauntauns and an FD, and then the 3 Rebel vets, and then 3 Mark IIs. So yeah, Tauntauns are a good distraction. but ultimately they still just fold.
Well, you have both made some very interesting points. And to help weigh my decision, I've thought of all the times I have played against TaunTauns. And one of my fondest memories playing against TaunTauns was at first being very scared because I was seeing 4 TaunTauns across the table. But then I felt a lot better when Vader hopped out of the lat and started just destroying TaunTauns. And Vader smited a TaunTaun onto a building and it couldn't climb down. So...
Totally unbiased.
Classic.
Totally unbiased. But I think that therein lies the main issue with TaunTauns in general. They're very one-dimensional. They cannot deal with terrain unless it's shorter than their silhouette.
Right.
And for that reason, I mean, like, everything else can go over some stuff to some degree, or take upgrades to help them go over things. But TaunTauns, and unfortunately also dewbacks, cannot deal with our table designs in a meaningful way. If somebody deploys TaunTauns on a table, you can look at the terrain and go, well, they're either coming around this way or they're coming around this way. You can then plan for the eventuality despite their speed. Unlike the aforementioned speeders and swoops that can just go over the terrain. So I think for that reason, currently, I'm going to give them an inglorious ruling because they can't deal with terrain. Which seems weird.
Hooray!
This is ridiculous.
Well, you should have prepared better, John.
I have a whole page of notes. What do you mean prepared better?
Like not insult the lat.
That was your main
Should have not insulted the
wrongdoing.
judge.
Yes. That's rule number 1 in our debates. Well, good job, John. In actuality, I have no idea if this unit's good or not.
No, I mean, I think it is a good unit. I just think right now it's tough to build a good list to help support them, around them. I think the closest you can get is what Stabcast Ryan does with his Echo Base.
Yep.
The only
Got
other option I can
hundreds of
think
games
of,
of that.
right? The only other option I can think of, just because it's a full press W list and just go, hey, get into somebody's lines and murder them, would be a bus, Luke, and 3 Tauns.
That sounds fun.
That does sound fun. I don't know if the TaunTauns are small enough to get full cover from the bus, because that could be interesting. I'm not sure the height differences there, but
right.
I think there's definitely ways to play them, but I think that they've become a little telegraphed just because of their inability to deal with terrain.
Yeah, and that applies to dewbacks too, because that's a creature trooper. So I mean, it's just a shame. That's just how the creature trooper rules just shook out. I think they definitely got the bad end of the stick after the new rules update from AMG.
And
they used to grant cover. Am I correct?
Yes, they used to grant cover, which was
right.
another amazing thing because you could have your army behind your creature troopers.
Right.
It was light cover, but
it was still better than nothing.
Right.
Yeah. So either way,
I think part of the problem
debate.
is just there's only been the 2 creature troopers, and they haven't gone and readdressed it because there have been no new creature troopers since the second year of the game.
Yes, second year, because I remember getting dewbacks around the Gen Con. Yeah. Cool. What other creature troopers in Star Wars could they add that are ridden? Or
we could get Blurg Riders.
I have those 3D printed ones.
Yeah. Trying to think.
Where's my Twi'lek Battle Force Come on.
Yeah, there's nothing really for the separatists that I can think of immediately. They're too droid dependent.
They are.
But yeah, I mean, technically, the Republic could get blurgs.
We'll get Boba on a Rancor eventually, maybe.
Or Night Sisters on Rancors is technically a thing that could happen.
Oh, yeah. I will also accept Night Sisters in general.
Yes.
It would be cool. I would like to see that. A Rancor in general would be cool.
Will Schick
That'd
did
be cool.
Talk about Night Sisters on another podcast without being told to talk about Night Sisters. So take that as you will.
Are they... We're way off tangent, but I don't care. Were they ever considered part of the Shadow Collective or no?
No.
Okay. Well, that stinks.
Yeah,
Night
that's
Sisters
kind of
have
where I would
always
think they would
kind of been their own thing.
Yeah. All right. That's what I was thinking, but man, Shadow Collective needs new units.
I mean, the best Shadow Collective could add at this point is Hutt Cartel as well as Crimson Dawn.
Yeah.
Because both of those were technically part of the Shadow Collective under Maul.
I doubt we'll see them, but who knows? Maybe.
I don't know. We've gotten Range Troopers. They were from Solo, so.
After Range Troopers, I was kind of like, okay, these guys who had like 2 minutes of screen time are making an appearance. That gives me hope that really anything could make an appearance.
I will say this: that was the best scene of the movie, though.
Oh, the train heist?
The train scene, yeah,
Yeah.
it was super cool. Okay. Anyways, how about we move on?
No.
All right. So we're going to talk about a new segment today. How to take your gameplay from Inglorious to Glorious. So this is going to be a recurring segment where we just talk different strategy points, different tactics. This is mainly geared towards competitive stuff. So today's topic and scope that we're going to talk about is how to improve your competitive gameplay. So basically, stuff we've learned over the years and just knowledge that we just want to share with the listeners.
Yeah, things that might not be completely obvious unless you have ended up playing against somebody who's going, oh, no, wait, you bumped that. So, you know.
Right. Who wants to start off? I know John is way more prepared than Brendan and I.
Yeah.
Yeah, John, go first. And then that way Brendan and I don't copy.
Are you sure? Well, I think we probably have a lot of very similar thoughts, so you guys can riff off a lot of my stuff. So I feel
That's fair, yeah.
Fair, cool. So I feel like one of the biggest things is turn zero, which we can look at it at not a super granular level because we could do probably not just one episode, but multiple episodes on turn zero. So just looking at like some very... Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, John. And just for people who've never heard the term turn zero before, that's literally every aspect of the game before you start actually playing.
Right. That involves the battle card setup. Like what do you ban? What do you pass? Picking table side. Well, you do that before the ban pass, but either way. And then deployment. That's all turn zero.
And technically even list building is part of turn zero. So
yes.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And I think a lot of people, especially during that first, 3 to 6 months, you're really focused on just building your army, kind of putting together what you have, sort of thinking about the combinations of different things that you can do. And I feel like for me, at least, turn zero didn't really click at a competitive level till a year in, when you really start digging in at a granular level. So that's when you really start digging into some of the more competitive concepts. If you're blue, look at your opponent's battle cards, and if they're similar to yours, you might want to choose red. Versus when you first start playing, it's oh, I'm blue. Let's start dealing them out and getting into the game. Whereas I feel once you start to play a little bit more, it's well, wait a second. I definitely want to choose my side. So if I have the choice of being red or blue, and we have the same cards, because I'm not doing some form of skew deck because I have speeders and I want to play Breakthrough or Bombing Run. We both have gun lines. We probably have similar battle decks. So I'm going to choose your battle deck because I want that last ban and I want to choose table side. So those are kind of the things that you start to like really think about at turn 0. That's just one example, but those are kind of the things that I wanted to dive into.
Yeah, to touch on that, for me, when I'm faced with that decision, I always pull out my like major offensive card and orient it depending on table side, so I can actually get a feel for how the terrain would impact at least that deployment, because then I can get an idea of the other deployments. So you can just kind of see where you'd be able to set up and what terrain would be more beneficial for your setup, for your approach to whatever the objectives might be. Because I'm a very visual person like that. So I need the reminder, well, all right, if I pick this side of the table, this would be my deployment zone, versus if I go to the other side of the table, that would be my deployment zone. So,
right.
Because it completely turns the card around. So.
Yep, exactly. To piggyback off some of the thoughts, I think at first you just definitely want to play the game and just learn as much as, like what your units do. And similar to John, like turn 0 doesn't really click until like after a little bit, after, X amount of like home games or at your local store. And then when you go to your first tournament, and like see more turn 0s or more competitive turn 0s, like that's when it starts to click. It's like, oh, I really should not have done this combination of battle cards. From a very high level, payload and hemmed in as red player is almost an auto lose. Like 99% you're going to lose as red player. We were not going to dive into that now, but it's just stuff like that you don't know until you experience it or someone tells you. And then what also helped me is like I built a skew list. So when Blizzard Force came out, I never really played speeders, and I was like, you know what? This year I'm going to focus on speeder play. And Blizzard Force just came out. I was like, sure. This is before anyone knew it was very good. So I was like, sure. Like let's just go really, really fast. And Vader sounds cool. So then you just build like a gross deck behind it, and then that's another way to learn like what your list wants to do and what objectives are good for you, what deployments are good for you. Or you can just copy someone's deck list and then play it. That's another way to learn too. Usually like I learn by playing and experiencing. So yeah, there you go. Turn 0.
Yeah.
Important stuff.
I think one of the things that I don't see people do enough, and I think people always are like kind of curious what I'm doing when I walk up to the table, is the first thing I do is I look at the center and then I measure like a range 2 all around the center. And what I'm doing is, one, I want to know where the center is in case we play KP, intercept, like basically any of the objectives that could potentially lead to a battle in the center. Right.
Yeah.
And I want to know what are the line of sight blockers that I can hide behind and then make a speed 2 double move to that center objective. So going into turn 5, where do I need to be so that I can double move turn 6 or single move shoot turn 6 if we get to turn 6 in a tournament, if it's timed, or if we're playing at the store and you're going to play all 6 turns. So I think just like getting up to the table and really kind of taking a look around and going, okay, where are the big line of sight blockers? What can I hide? For me playing Anakin, like where can Anakin be where I can share my tokens all game safely? Where can I make my moves safely from turns 4, 5, and 6 where I'm really going for those objectives? Where's my opponent going to hide? And then you can kind of start building from that whole train of thought where it's like, okay, here's the line of sight blockers. All right, I'm going to end up being red because I'm 800, they're 795. They chose to stay blue. Okay, these are the best line of sight blockers on this side. Let me walk over to the other side, not just choose this side because all my stuff is already set down here. because I see that happen quite a bit. You know what I mean? Like, but that
is
best
a
choice
tried and
sometimes.
true strategy.
I feel like I would say a third of the time when I play, the person goes, "I'll just take this side because my stuff is here," and I'm like, "Okay." And sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't, because it literally
Depends
is a
on
flip
how
of a
far
coin.
you have to walk to change the
Yeah.
table
Fair,
sides.
fair. Some of the things like at
What
Worlds,
like what round is it? Am I directly
Right.
in the middle of this
Right.
tournament?
am I 0-2 and this game doesn't matter? Then I might be down with that strategy. But if you're 2-0 and it's game 3, I mean, walk around the table, see what's going on. You want to see it from both sides, bend over, look at the sight lines, but really focus on those line of sight blockers and pick a side of the table that is not only advantageous for yourself, but, not advantageous for your opponent, so that when they're moving into the center, they're doing it through open area. Like, you have open sight lines to them, because there's situations where it's like, okay, you might be hiding the whole game, I might be hiding the whole game. You're eventually going to have to go out and get to that center in KP, or get to that center point and intercept, or grab the center box and recover the supplies. And if you can't safely get out there, you just have to feed me your units if I'm castling behind a line of sight block, or, like some good difficult terrain. That is, you are playing in a horrible position before the game even starts, hence the turn 0. So I think picking that correct side is huge if you can when you're red, which could be another reason why, if you end up being blue, you still want to be red. And yeah, it could be another benefit of being blue, picking red if you have the same battle cards, if you're not playing a skew, which not everyone's playing skews. So, a lot of people do the gunline style. So I think that's why I always play 800. I want to be red. I want to play 800, win on ties. But also, one final thing. When you're red, you can force the third battle card in any row if you want.
Yeah, these are all good options as red.
Yep.
Red is very, very powerful.
So, and if you're not red, know that your opponent can do that to you as blue.
Yep.
So, just stuff to all be aware of going into turn 0 that I think can elevate your game. As a newer player, and definitely as a player kind of trying to take your game to the next level, going from inglorious to glorious.
My man, there you go. Yeah. Do you wanna riff off another one of John's, or Brendan? You got something?
I got something, and I know every player has experienced this before. And this has kind of been on my mind. Last episode, I talked a bit about the game I played with the Escalation League, and I was playing Inquisitors for the first time. One thing you should really know if you want to take your game to the next level is what your units do and the timing of it. Because for as much as I have loved talking about Demoralize 1, I think I remembered it twice over the course of my game.
I had that same real quick. I had that same issue with Raiding Party Leader. I kept forgetting. I was like, man, I should have remembered that.
Right.
Demoralize 1.
So, I mean, it's going to happen, especially when it's a new unit to you. So make sure you remember what is in your arsenal, essentially, and also to do it at the correct timing, because your opponent doesn't have to say sure. They can say no, you missed the timing, and because that's part of the rules. Missed timing, it means it doesn't happen.
Right.
For example, in a competitive setting, if you bring bounty hunters and you don't put the bounty tokens out at the correct timing, there's no bounties for you to claim.
I thought it was a mandatory effect.
It's a mandatory effect, but if it is missed, it is a missed timing, and therefore you can't retroactively do it, technically.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, then.
I mean, your opponent could be nice and say, well, I only have one commander, so that's the obvious target, but...
Yeah. When is the timing? Just because we're talking about it?
I can't remember specifically if it's when the bounty hunter goes down or at the end of deployment.
Okay.
would have
So
to
I'm pretty sure
double-check
it's
that.
when the bounty hunter goes down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's at the end of deployment because their target might not be on the table yet.
Oh, it's probably that.
But
Anyways.
I'd have to double check that. But that then leads into my second thing, which is of a similar note. Know the rules.
That's fair.
There's a lot of rules. So at least know the main
Your
ones.
army rules.
And yeah, especially your army rules. Or at least know how to look up the rules. Know how to search the CRB. Know how to search the forum. Find the answers you're looking for. And if you can't find the answer you're looking for, make sure you ask it. I mean, so that's the only way that it's going to get clarified and not lead to people being confused.
Real quick, if you do have a question and you don't know how to search it, the best feature that I use is the main Legion Discord. That's the big one, right? And then if you go to under the General tab, rule questions and answers, you just ask it there. And literally, I've gotten an answer within a minute or 2 minutes. So if there was a very specific question or like weird interaction that you're not sure of, just ask it.
Yeah.
Usually gets it.
Yeah,
Agreed.
I mean, depending on who answers, you can definitely trust the answer. But
Right. Generally, I've had good answers.
right. And again, if you know how to search for the answers and you can find something that isn't just a Discord message, that is invaluable because then you can find an answer quickly, show it to your opponent. You can then both agree. Or if that's still not good enough, make sure you call over a consular because they will do the same thing and then tell what the actual rule is. Because everybody wants to have a good play experience, so don't make it an argument. Just go, all right, look, this is what it says. You don't believe me. Let's bring in somebody else who's impartial. So,
Yep.
I have a Legion quick guide pinned on my phone, so it's like pretty much always running in the background.
Yep. It's a handy tool.
It is. I have no idea how to use the forum. If I have a question that reaches that level, I just go to the rules section of the Discord, and if somebody doesn't know,
It's so handy. It's so quick.
At that point, you just make it up. You make up the rule. I'm just kidding. Don't do that.
No, don't do that. Not in a competitive setting. No.
Then we flip a coin.
That's right.
yeah, I will say making sure you are up to date with any new forum postings could be huge, depending on your list. Like it was, I don't know, a month and a half ago or something, where a forum ruling was posted about the. I'm forgetting the keyword. Hold on. That's why the error exists.
Brendan's looking up the answer for us.
Detachment.
Oh yeah, they changed that.
Yes. So basically, since shore troopers and mortars or rebel vets and Mark IIs have come out, people have tended to do it in the way of, well, I'm putting down my main unit and I'm putting down my detachment unit. But a forum ruling recently came out that the detachments cannot be placed until all of the parent units have been placed. So if you're running 3 shore troopers and 3 mortars, all 3 of your shore troopers have to be down before any of your mortars go down.
Super weird.
So, yeah, and that's not how anybody's been playing it that I've ever encountered. And then this this forum ruling comes out. So if you're not used to having to now place them in that manner, that could really mess up your turn 0. But somebody at a competitive event could call you out on that. And it could really mess with what you're trying to do with your deployment.
Right. So just make sure you know the rules, look up the forum stuff. That's a good one.
So I should be accessing these so-called forums out there on the
Only if you want to get good, John.
out there on the World Wide Web.
Only if you don't want to be surprised by anything.
Yeah,
That's never happened to me before.
I'm surprised every single tournament I go to, I'm like, what are you doing?
Oh yeah, no, I don't think there's
What
ever been a
shenanigan are
game
you
where I
doing?
haven't learned something.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Honestly, there's no.
There's so many units and variety. It's just hard to like, in combinations, just to like memorize them all.
I can't think of
You
any.
can know the popular ones, but yeah.
That is true. I feel like the only time I've ever been surprised by stuff, well, obviously the rapid reinforcement situation at Worlds, but
That's a turn 0 error.
but nothing that has mattered other than that one, where it's been like, it's usually almost like what you said, where it's like a command card of a commander or operative that you don't see often, and somebody's like, oh, I really like Grievous, or I really like, some other Jin. And it's like, oh, I haven't played against Jin in 4 years, like, oh, if she was even out then. But that's, and they play a command card and you're like, what the hell does that do? Like, it's just, and it's something that typically doesn't matter a whole lot, which is why people don't play those commanders, because they don't have crazy command cards, or they're not overpowered units, so to speak. But
right.
So I can't really think of any real situations like that, or other situations where it's been like so game altering that it lost me the game due to misunderstanding and interaction, other than the rapid reinforcements one.
Well, John, I thought of an example of yours, which just needing to know familiarity. You don't need to know exactly what things do, but you should have a general idea of what command cards do. Because I think it was ACO last year, you were very confused by Cad Bane and took way too much time trying to understand what Cad Bane could do.
Yeah, I remember.
Oh, yeah. ACO 2022.
Yeah. Was that?
Yeah.
I thought it was 23.
No, that was 23.
Oh, no, it was 23.
John and
I
I
was
played
wrong.
23.
Yeah.
That might have been the first time I played against Cad Bane. Yeah, it was the Bane tokens.
Right. Mm-hmm. So it's at least be somewhat familiar with what things
you know
can
what?
do,
Yeah.
so.
I want to riff off that really quick. In a competitive setting, games are timed. So
Yes.
generally, you want to play to a degree that's quick. And Legion is a 6-turn game. A lot of objectives score at the end of the game. The end of the game, hopefully, is 6 rounds. That's generally the standard everyone tries to get to. Like, hey, like, this game needs to finish. We need to get to turn 6. So just play faster. That's it. If you don't know something, or if you're uneasy about it, just learn. Just learn while you play.
And
To a degree, trust your opponent. Right? It's like, okay, I haven't played against Cad Bane. He does what? Okay, cool. That's fine.
Yeah, and just because you jogging things from my brain here, Corey, with the whole, there are some things that score at the end of the game. There are situations where the game could swing drastically, like with intercepted transmissions. If your game ends, if time is called at the end of turn 4, you score turn 4 and then also score end of game. So
right, no, exactly. Know when. Sorry, let me phrase it this way. Know how each objective scores.
yes.
Okay, that's pretty important. Like Brendan just said,
Hugely
intercept is a wonky one where it could potentially score twice on turn 4.
And then the double points for the second scoring. So,
That's what I mean. Yeah. Yeah,
So-
it's nuts.
if you're at an event that's following the Galactic Conquest rules, you can't keep time, but you can, at least if you're wearing a watch, estimate. So you want to keep an idea of where you're going or how the game state is, to try and make sure that you're not completely caught off guard when time is called.
Right. Well, I want to bring up some things that when I learned them, I felt like I got a whole lot better at the game. And it's just measuring quickly and like shorthand, and understanding that the movement tools are slightly different than the range tools. I'll elaborate. That sentence sounds weird. So most troopers move speed 2. If you double move, it looks like, if you just look at it very quickly, it looks like that's range 2. In fact, it's not. It's like, what, 11.9 inches or something silly like that?
Yeah.
Where two range sticks together is 12 inches. So very often, like a tactic like that I've learned is, if I want to move speed 2 to something, I'm just going to get my range 2 stick out and just like measure from that unit leader. It's like, okay, I can move to like approximately there. That helps me out a ton. Also, the same works for shooting. So if you go speed 2 and you want to, if you want to move shoot, let's just call it that. If you want to move shoot, and you want to shoot with, like, let's say all your guns, and all your guns shoot at range 3. If you are exactly range 4 away, it's not going to work. You're just too short. You're just a little bit short. So you can't move and shoot at exactly range 4 to get to range to get to the range 3 band. So learning that and just practicing that has like helped me out so much. When to declare that is very important too, which is usually all the time. So when I'm measuring or when I move some units, I go, okay, I'm moving this unit here, and the goal is to move it exactly range 4 or whatever range you want of this unit. And that's, that is the game state. If something gets bumped, you've declared your intent. Both players should understand the game state that you are exactly range 4. So if it comes up that your opponent's able to move shoot, you could just refer back to that, that moment in time and say, hey, I declared this was at range 4. So stuff like that, the community gets, and that's how we've been playing. As it helps out tremendously. And then on that same regard, so I was playing against one of my locals, Troy. He's fairly new to the game, so I was teaching him how to basically run away and shoot at the same time from like a very scary in-your-face army. So either they're melee threats or they're range 2 threats. So I was playing the Fury Road, right? So I was playing Black Sun Enforcers. They are scary at range 2 and range 1. Mainly range 2 just in general, right? So he was playing a normal Imperial gun line, and their whole goal and objective is to just shoot. Hopefully they want to aim shoot, but that's not... No, you want to shoot, you want to deal as much damage and take the least amount of damage at the same time. So like when you think in that way, like what should you do? You want to shoot and then move backwards. So I told them, like, you want to stay at exactly range 3 away from a Black Sun unit, because I can't move and shoot you with my scary range 2 guns. When you shoot, you don't, like, when you shoot at my army, you're going to want to shoot and then move backwards, because then that creates more distance and more distance that I have to cover in order to come get at you. So those are just like learning the different ranges and the way movement works, and just like the interaction between those two tools is very important. And that's what helped me elevate my game. You could just practice it on your tabletop solo. That's what I did. Just to understand it, it takes like 10 minutes to set up like a couple examples, and just learn some shorthand. There you go.
Yep.
Yeah. Sometimes I just take a model, the range rulers, and the movement tool, and go, all right, well, if I do this, how far can they travel?
Right.
Because, one of the things, some things can augment their speed, like burst of speed. Well, if I put that on a Jedi, how fast can they go in their 2 moves, right?
Yeah.
Or, let's say, you're pairing Vader with the Inquisitors, and you want new ways to motivate the Inquisitors. Now they can move 3 times potentially at speed 3. How far away is that? What can you really make the threat range be for those kinds of units?
That exactly. So then, like, when playing speeder bikes, you want to know, it's the same thing. It's like, how far is 3 moves if I have to go 3 moves? How far is 2 moves? It's just like knowing that shorthand on the range rulers just helps out. Yep.
And obviously, base size also plays a part.
Yes, absolutely. So, I'm including base size in that measurement.
Right.
Yeah, and that's something you can easily do on your own tabletop. Just set a range ruler right next to your model, and then just start moving it. There you go.
Yep.
Because sorry, John. Just last thing. I like the lat, so I was looking at the difference between just the normal Speed 2 lat or the TIE Pilot Speed 3 lat, and it basically changes the threat range of units getting dropped off from range 3 to range 4. So it adds that.
That's probably the best way to summarize that is threat range.
Yeah, it adds that whole extra almost 6 inches. And then you add the Speed 1 get out also. I mean, things can move real fast.
Absolutely. What were you going to say, John?
I was just going to say, just knowing that each segment of the range band is exactly 6 inches, which you had said, basically. And then a small base trooper unit, I just remember 468. The small Speed 1 is just shy of 4 inches. Speed 2 is just shy of 6 inches. Hence, the double move does not get you a full 12, which is why you're declaring.
I think it's like 5.95 inches or something like that.
It's like a 2 millimeter difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the Speed 3 is just shy of 8 inches. So it's important to know those kind of calculations, because you can even like start looking at things like, okay, if this Luke is going to do burst of speed and then he's going to move 8 inches, then force push me, that gives him 4 inches, but it adds up to be just shy of 12 inches. So that's where I need to be. So you can kind of, once you kind of know that conversion of 4, 6, 8, and then the range band segments of 6 inches, and know that each one of those movement tools is just shy of those inch markers of 4, 6, 8, you can start doing the math on all different kinds of movements. A force push. I do this all the time for aggressive negotiations for Padme, where somebody, because people are competitive players when they are declaring a lot of these types of moves, like it's like I am at 3, and they over clarify, because I do the same thing. I am at 3, like, and if somebody's sitting there going, I get it, dude, you're like, okay, they're just kind of like, why does this guy keep telling me that he's at 3, at 2, at 4 all the time? You can kind of tell that they're not used to playing in a more competitive setting, which is fine. But if your opponent is also simultaneously declaring their ranges, you're kind of like, all right, they get it. They're more, potentially a more competitive player. They're, aware of all of the threat ranges. So for aggressive negotiations, that's one that catches people off guard, because they're sitting there and they're like, okay, he's outside of range 3. He's not going to be able to move, shoot me. And then I'll play aggressive negotiations, and they didn't account for that extra 3.9 inch move that I now have that I didn't have before.
That's the Padme 2 pip for people that don't know.
So be aware of command cards that give free moves. R2 has one. That's one. Leia has
free
one.
moves at the beginning of the command card phase, which is an important distinction. Not during the activation, not during the activation phase, but during the command card phase.
Correct. It might give you the jump where you're thinking they can't move, shoot me, but in actuality they can, which is what makes EXD so challenging to play against, because it kind of throws off that whole calculus of all the small base trooper units that are
oh god, yeah.
Well, because people are used to the move, shoot, and okay, I keep them at this range band and I'm good. But when all of a sudden they move speed 3, now they can move in, shoot you, and then move back, and you can't return fire because they're moving in and out of those threat ranges, and you can't keep up with them as a normal speed 2 movement.
That's a more special nuance. I don't want to say nuance, but like that's a more special case, right? That's the current meta monster. But yeah, they're tricksy because they break the normal rules of engagement of Legion. I say this all the time. We talk about EXD, but they just break everything that's normalized in terms of movement and ranges.
But if you know that 4, 6, and 8, and you know the range segments of 6 inches, you can basically kind of math out anything from that starting point. Not that it's exactly 4, 6, and 8, but it's a little bit shy of 4, 6, and 8. So just little things like that. And
I do want to say, considering how important knowing these measurements can be in a competitive setting. I bet some of the listeners are thinking, well, then why don't I just mark up my range ruler with these so I can do that? I can know these things and not have to just know these things. I can use my range ruler. That's against the rules. You can't have any marks on it for measurements. You can paint it up all pretty and however you want, just it cannot have marks on it for pre-measuring.
Yep. I'm sure you could do that at home and then practice with it at home.
Yes. But whatever range ruler you're bringing to a competitive tournament cannot have marks on it for
I've never seen anyone do it, to be fair, though.
I have not either.
I
always look at everyone's range ruler just because I'm staring at the board and I'm looking at what they're looking at. And I've never seen anyone's range ruler be marked up. So
I saw one.
Don't be the first guy to do it.
I've seen one person's, and I'm not going to say where, and it was not somebody I played against at this tournament. But it looked like they had painted their range rulers to be rulers.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I didn't get a huge look. I was just kind of walking by.
You might as well use a measuring tape at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
But, yeah, no.
Interesting.
So, at the same time, I've played somebody who said, hey, do you mind if I just use a measuring tape? I didn't care because it wasn't like a big competitive event. But at the same time, that's not allowed. You have to use the official tools.
Right. Anything else we can think of while we're here?
I got one more, and it's big.
Oh,
it's big.
It's big.
What is it?
It is know the objectives, which sounds like an obvious thing, but I was thinking of it from I think know the objectives from not the most granular level, but just know them from the most simplest form. Because I think people tend to overthink the objectives. Like, they get caught up in, the terrain and the armies and all that. And I think what's really helped, and this kind of almost ties into Turn Zero, but just to keep it solely focused on objectives and knowing the objectives, just think about them from the standpoint of, KP. There are 3 points on the table. One you know for a fact is going to be at the closest piece of terrain to the center. And then you know for a fact your opponent is going to place 1. You are going to place 1. So basically, just knowing that it's probably going to become a battle over the center. They're probably going to get their home objective that they placed. You're probably going to get your home objective, so to speak, that you placed. So it's going to be a battle for the center. So just kind of looking at it from just a very simplistic view. And then I always ask, how many activations do you have? I know it's in game uplink, or I know we're moving to Longshanks. But it's like, okay, you have 10, I have 9. You're going to have to commit 1 to your home point. I'm going to have to commit 1 to my home point. That leaves you with 9, me with 8. I have to kill something of yours just to tie the center in a world where we are both able to push all 8 of our units onto the center. So just looking at it from a very simple way, then transitioning into a more granular approach where you're then saying, okay, well, what's in those 10 activations that they have? Do they have a force user? Because they're going to be able to push one of my units out. Thereby, my 8 that I've committed to the center becomes 7. Do they have a bounty hunter? Because now it's not 3 total points available. It's 3 between us, and then there's a 4th potential point, but only available to them. So they don't necessarily need to score the center if they're up on kill points. They can stay home, snag my commander or operative, whatever they place their bounty on, and then, bag one of my cheap units and be up on kill points and still win on a 2-2 tie. So that changes the calculus. Is there secret mission on the board? So basically kind of looking at it from a 1,000-foot view and then zeroing in on the more granular level. I think people tend to really kind of get lost in okay, we got all this going on. I got all these miniatures, this table's cool, and there's a lot going on because the game is awesome.
Oh, we're playing Star Wars.
Yeah, and it's awesome, and so do I. But it you're taking very simple concepts and making them very complex when in fact they are very simple concepts. Like if you think about another great example is breakthrough. Like, how many acts do you have? I have 10. How many do you have? I have 9. Okay, if we don't interact, the person with 10, they win. Because if you toilet bowl, it's basically just simplifying it down to the most basic level and then kind of looking into some of the more nuances of the game once you have those basic concepts down.
Right. I think what you're getting at is like, who is the aggressor and who is the defender in like at the beginning of the game? Like in terms of like an objective wise, like who needs to kill something first?
Yep.
I think that's kind of what you're getting. Yeah. Like that's also part of that calculus. Like am I going on offense or am I staying on defense? Like you have to figure that out.
Yep. And then that's the final question that you ask yourself is, if nothing changes, what is the outcome of this game? And then in the breakthrough example I gave of the 10x to 9x, the person with 10 wins if nobody interacts. So thereby the person with 9x is automatically the aggressor.
I'm going to piggyback on this and add in not just know the objective, but don't forget about the objective in your game. Because I have played numerous games where I've won despite having more of my army dead than my opponents, because I didn't forget about the objective. And I was playing the objective while they got, just red in their eyes going, I'm just going to murder everything. So I've been able to still win by playing the objective. Because that's how you win the game. The true Rebel way. I have never played Rebels, sir.
Fair.
Yep. And I think I think the combination between knowing the objective and the turn 0 play is like what truly elevates your game in competitive play. And I think, you even see it with like I talk about all the time when I playing clones at 800 points. Like I want to play VAPS, I want to play hostage, I want to play anything that forces a situation where it's going to be tied on objectives and you have to come at me. You have to basically change the game state, which is very challenging to do against a clone castle.
Against clones.
Yep. Yeah. And if you don't see that because you don't know what's happening turn 0, or you don't, really see that you need to be the aggressor during the, from truly understanding what's happening for the objective, you've pretty much lost before the game has started. Because by the time you figure it out, it's too late.
These are some excellent points we've all made. Any last ones? Or I think we're pretty good. I hit most of them. We gotta save some for next time. Next time we do this.
No, that's all I got.
Next time.
I'll say this. If you guys have a certain question or like topic that you want us to talk about in this segment, then we're more than happy to do that. You can do that if you send us an email at ingloriousblasters@gmail.com, or you can ask on our Discord. Either way.
I'll even make a new channel just for this.
New channel. Look at Brendan doing work.
That's the spirit.
Yeah, so we're open to suggestions. If you like the segment, let us know. If you hated it, you should also let us know. Alrighty. I think this was a great episode. It's probably time to land this ship. What do you guys say?
There's a ship to land?
I'm getting a lot of blank stares. So, I'm imagining that it's time to crash the ship. We are the Inglorious Blasters. I'm Corey.
I'm John.
I'm Brendan. And John apparently forgot he was John.
Stay glorious, everyone.